Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be finishing up my houseplant updates. The other day, I took you around my living room and I showed you some plants that I have repotted or moved around, and plants that have been putting on lots of new growth for me during the spring and early summer. And today I'm going to be showing you a couple of plants in my kitchen and also the ones in my sunroom that I have recently repotted, ones that have been putting on lots of new growth for me. So lots of exciting things going on in the sunroom. So let's turn the camera around and we'll jump on into the video, guys. So the first plant that I'm going to mention briefly is this philodendron heartleaf. This guy is always putting on lots of new growth for me. It doesn't really matter the time of year. And of course in the spring and summer it does pick up, but it is a continuous grower and I'm always taking cuttings from this guy and propagating. So that's the philodendron heartleaf. So pretty. And if we move over here, this is my true Christmas cactus, and this one I propagated a couple of months ago directly into soil, into this cute little planter, and it is putting on new little leaves, new growth. So cute. So that's the true Christmas cactus. If we move over to this guy, this is my jewel orchid, and I've had this guy now for several months, and I want to say about a month and a half ago I moved it into this glass jar, airtight glass jar, and it has been doing awesome. I don't know whether you can see in there, but there is quite a bit of new growth, and even the sphagnum is germinating, so it is also liking the extra humidity in the enclosed terrarium. So that one's doing fantastic. And if we come out into the sunroom. Okay, so now we are in my sunroom, and this is just a little pan over of what one of my racks looks like. My Hoya obovata up here on the top has been getting some new growth. You can see the tiniest of a little leaf right there, along with that new stem. So I'm excited about that. This guy here, my arrowhead, I need to do something with this soon. This one's drying out too fast, so it definitely needs to be repotted. I'll be doing that soon. And if we come down to this shelf, let's see what we have new going on here. This is my Hoya pubicalyx, and this one has been getting quite a bit of new growth. Those three leaves right there are new, plus that new little stem growth there. And I've actually been thinking about putting some of my Hoyas outside to see if they will put on some new growth a little bit quicker. And if I do, I will probably place them under my gazebo because it's shaded. They'll be getting a little bit brighter indirect sunshine than what they are getting in here. That is my Hoya Crinkle 8, and this new leaf here to the right is new. This one has not been growing so fast for me, so it's another reason why I'm thinking I may just put some of them outside. This one here is my Hoya Rebecca. Love this one so much. This one is getting some new growth right there. The tiniest of little leaves. Some new growth right there as well. And over here. This is a plant that I received for my birthday a couple months back. I think it was in May, shortly before, I think maybe the end of April, I received it. So super happy now that this one's putting on some new growth finally. That's the Hoya Rebecca. And let's see, what else do we have here? Sorry about my dog, guys. He probably sees the UPS guy out front. So anyway, this is my Peperomia obtusifolia. And so this guy seems to be pretty happy. He's got some rat tail blooms going on. And I am going to repot this one, possibly, depending. I mean, it looks pretty healthy, but it has grown quite a bit. I may propagate a little bit of this plant, just trim it back a little bit, not much. And I'm also considering moving this third rack down a couple of notches, just so that I can put some taller plants in through here and move some of my just fuller but shorter plants down to the bottom shelf. Over here is my Hoya macrophylla variegata. This one is also putting on some new babies, new leaves, and not growing as quick as I would like it to, but growing nonetheless. This here is new growth as well. This is another one that I may end up putting outside. Just not quite sure yet. On my third shelf, I have my philodendron Birkin, which is doing really well. That middle, mostly whitish variegated leaf is the newest leaf. So pretty with the variegation. Over here to the right, I have my Tradescantia tricolor, my oyster plant. And this pot is full of cuttings that I recently took from my mother plant about 4 weeks ago, I think it's been. And all of them are rooted in, and this is new growth right here. So it's doing well. If we move over to my spider plant, you guys probably recall that I repotted this one several months back. And just recently, I noticed that it really hasn't been doing that well, or it wasn't doing that well. It was getting lots of yellowing leaves around the bottom. So I decided to take it out of the pot once again to see what was going on, and it was completely root bound again. So what I did is I took it out of this pot, and at the time it had like 8 babies in this pot. Right now it only has 3 because that's what I placed back into this planter. The other 5 babies that were in this pot, I potted them up separately and passed them on to family and friends. And now this plant is doing much, much better. So that's the Hawaiian spider plant. If we move over here, this is my jade pothos. This one was in a nursery planter. I repotted this one about a week ago into the ceramic planter, and it's doing pretty good. So this one is all green. No matter how much sun it gets, it just completely stays green. It's very pretty. If we move down here, this is my pothos Enjoy. This one has been a slow grower for me. I recently repotted it because the stems were kind of getting a little bit limp, and it was also in a terracotta planter that really was drying out too fast. So I repotted it into this plastic planter, and it's been doing much better. This plant here is the original tricolor, my oyster plant. This is the one that I completely cut back to just the stumps, and this is all new growth. So that's doing awesome. Right here is my Ceropegia woodii, my string of hearts. This guy's growing like a weed. Lots of new growth on this one. If we move down here, this one I just yesterday cut this one back. It was in a smaller planter, so I repotted it into this larger planter, and I took quite a bit of cuttings from it because it was quite long and getting a little bit leggy. So I planted the new cuttings back into the soil with the mother plant. So now we have a nice full plant. That's a pretty one. This one has yellow blooms. It's a Kalanchoe blasfeldiana. Very pretty. And right here is my Syndapsis pictus exotica. This is a plant that I just purchased not long ago, just a couple weeks, so it's all repotted. No new growth yet, but hoping for some new growth soon. This is my Dischidia oantha. This one I repotted a couple of weeks ago. I just didn't care for the soil that it was originally in. It was getting a little bit cakey and drying out too quickly. So I repotted it into a planter that is just a little bit bigger, not much at all, maybe a ½ inch bigger. And it's doing awesome. This is all new growth here, those little tiny leaves. I love this plant so much. This is a gorgeous plant. I love the shapes of the leaves, and I love that they are so much like a Hoya. They really are quite waxy, almost very succulent-like, very much like a succulent. I would say that the leaves are even a little bit more waxier than some of the Hoyas. So this is definitely a favorite of mine right now. I'm really enjoying this one. And this is the Dischidia Hoyantha. Very pretty plant. If we come over here, this is my lipstick plant. I think it's called an Escananthus lipstick plant. This one has been doing very well. When I originally purchased this plant, I think it was more towards the end of last year, it wasn't doing so great. It lost a lot of foliage, but this spring and the early part of the summer, it has put on so much new growth and it looks so healthy and so beautiful. Super happy with this guy. And it just has the prettiest of blooms. I love that. So gorgeous. If we come down here, these are some of my propagations that I have going on. Over here is some Thanksgiving cacti that I took off of my mother plant, and right here are some curly Bonnie spider plants that I propagated from my mother plant. The mother plant was severely root bound, so we got her repotted as well. And these are the babies. And if we come over here, let's see. My staghorn fern, I repotted this one into this cute little brown and tan and white planter. Looks so cute. Love this guy as well. I love the sheen to the leaves on this guy. So pretty. And let me see. My spider plant. This is a spider plant that I repotted several months back. This one wasn't doing well. It was severely root bound, and look at the new growth on that. This one is really taken off. Very pretty. Over here we have my Begonia maculata whitey. This one has been such a slow grower for me. Wow. I've been babying it and it is starting to get some new growth. This is a new leaf right here. And over here, there is a cluster of new leaves forming. Right here, if you can see those. And this one is new, but it really has been a slow grower. Hopefully once it really gets its feet adjusted in the soil, it'll start putting on some new growth. When I purchased this one a while back, it was in pretty rough shape. So I'm just glad that it's still alive. It's holding its own. Back here is my curly Bonnie spider plant. This is one that I just recently repotted because it was root bound. So we've got that into some new soil, same planter, but I just split the plant up. There's only 3 babies in this one now, and it did have like, it had 6 or 7. So I just reduced it down to just the 3 plants that are in there now. So hopefully it will stay in this planter for at least a year anyway. Hopefully it'll be good before I have to repot it again, hopefully. My Tradescantia zebrina up here, I cut this one way back and planted a lot of the cuttings up into the top, and it's doing pretty good. I think it's looking a lot healthier than it did. So probably what I will do with this one is once it starts to get long and leggy, I'm just going to keep pruning it back so that it maintains a little bit bushier and healthier look to the leaves. Over here, this is a new addition, guys. This is my curly lipstick plant, and this one is I think it's the Escananthus radicans, I think it is. Let's see. Yep, Escananthus radicans. So this one is new. I've only had this one for a couple of days, and I want to find a nice hanging spot for this one. But for the time being, I just have it sitting on one of my little stands. This guy here, my Begonia lucerna, is not doing the greatest, guys. It's been browning, the leaves have been browning. This is a new leaf here, so the new growth is coming out okay, but I think when I had it on my table over here behind me, I think it was just getting too much sun and the leaves really started to fade and crisp up. So I've moved it and hopefully it will start to do better. This plant back here is another Adansonii, Monstera Adansonii. I picked this one up about a month ago only because my Adansonii in my living room started to get a little bit chlorotic, and I wasn't quite sure whether it was going to make it or not, so I found one of these. I found this one at my local Wegmans for a decent price, so I decided to pick it up. And then of course there's my little rickrack cactus. No new growth on this guy yet, but it's early. So, and I'm not expecting to see any new growth on this one probably for a little while yet. My orchid cactus is doing well. No new growth yet that I can see. My little peperomia watermelon, my watermelon peperomia back there. I think this one is starting to look a lot healthier now. So all of the plants on this shelf are doing pretty good. And if we move over here to the right, here is my Philodendron Congo Rojo. This is the newest leaf that it put out. So you can see that it's still a little bit bronze looking. It hasn't quite hardened off yet. Very pretty plant. Huge. Definitely a big guy. Okay guys, so that concludes my houseplant updates. I will be doing an updated houseplant tour probably in August sometime, so you can look forward to that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy the content of my videos, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you here along with us. I hope you all have a fantastic week. I love you all, and I will see you in my next video. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.